dioxide binds because it's too complex. It's actually going to bind to that carbon right there. But look it up in Leninger, and you can see that it's like a 9-step process where this becomes a double bond, and that becomes a hydroxyl group, etc. So I'm not so much interested in you knowing the details because it's very complex. Look at what's going on. There are about 6 different reactions that occur to get this to happen in Rubisco. Very complex enzymatic reaction. But there's 2 of the carbons. The carbon dioxide adds to that one, but there's the other 3. But how you get to there is not simple. If you look at what I put up on the board, there's a little bit more essay aspects than on the first exam. By the time we get to the final, it'll be more and more essay and less, structure, molecular structure. But electron on the first page, labeling organelles. Why do we believe that they're endosymbiotic? A discussion of what is the function of the electron transport chain generally. Bioenergetics, somehow getting to that concept that I hate, of getting to the concept of NRG in a way that makes you think more specifically about what's going on rather than just wax on, wax off using the word energy and not knowing what that means. And photophosphorylation will take you along that path. That is, how does light destabilize molecules? And how can that destabilization be used to the bacteria or plant's advantage? Carbon fixation obviously has to do with this little aspect right here, but you're adding carbon to the living world, and prior to carbon fixation, life on Earth had to depend on prebiotic synthesized molecules from ultraviolet radiation, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, minerals in the oceans, hydrogen sulfide and nitrogen coming out of volcanic vents in quotes, Campbell's primordial soup that you always hear about. But of course, eventually you're going to run out of that. If you have studied anything about evolution, you've studied or had at least mentioned Malthus, an economist who proposed, while studying human populations, that resources can grow only arithmetically, whereas biological organisms can only be grow geometrically. So if a farmer, his example, if a farmer can clear a portion of land of rocks so that he can make 1 acre of arable land a year, then he can make 1 acre 1 year, he can make 1 acre the next year, he can make 1 acre the next year, and so he can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every year of his life an additional acre of land. However, the rabbits that grow on that land can increase geometrically and run him out of business. They can go 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, etc. And so if you've got physical processes making food and you become a life form in the primordial soup, you are going to run out of food. You have have to have somewhere along the line carbon fixation. And you also might know of LUCA, L-U-C-A, the last universal common ancestor. And the last universal common ancestor says, sort of like a cartoon that I read a long time ago, where the cartoon was a whole sequence of panels. It had little amino acids in each of the panels, and it says 2 amino acids bump together. They form a dipeptide. They fall apart. 2 amino acids bump together. They form a dipeptide. They fall apart. Early evolution, right? So you end up with life forms developing multiple times and running out of food and dying. Running out of food and dying. Running out of food and dying. Finding the wrong habitat and dying. And then one figures out how to do it. And that's what gave us everything here today, and that's why we have universal metabolic pathways like glycolysis and certain organisms that depend on a single enzyme, Rubisco. That it only happened 1 billion times, but only one of those survived, the last universal common ancestor. What else? Why aren't we all plants?
It's not as much fun.
What?
It's not as much fun.
But you wouldn't know that. You know? Like what if you had 2 sisters? I don't know.
You maybe go through the transition from an alpha-ketoglutarate to 6-phenyl-CoA and 6-phenyl?
What?
Can we go over the transition
Oh.
TCA between alpha-ketoglutarate, 6-phenyl-CoA, and 6-phenyl?
You would better than that. Well, you have
Yeah.
Oh, wake up. Just turn you off.
I guess not so much what's going down in the big picture, but more about what's happening.
It's a conversion of one kind of molecule to another. I mean, you're removing the carbon dioxide, you